And this innate thing in us to always respond, always responding to crisis, always jumping in, I think becomes magnified or amplified when you become a mother, a Black mother. You begin to bury yourself. You begin to bury your dreams. You begin to bury your desire because that has been nurtured in you to sacrifice yourself for your community, for your people. And then you have this other life that you're taking care of that you've got to sacrifice yourself for that too. And so when I thought about boundaries are about preserving the relationship, I thought about how not setting those boundaries has cost us relationship with ourselves in terms of our desires, in terms of following, our dreams. And I think that leads to us living through our children. And that leads to us tying our worth to how our children turn out. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Ride. You're on the mothership inside the Black Woman Magic Room with the greatest podcast on earth.
G-Po.
Okay, that was... I know you was looking down. I know you was looking down, but I also know you're really excited about this episode.
Yeah.
You got your books ready. In fact, I just want to warn y'all, Thea may have to carry this mac and cheese because your girl.
You have not explained to me why. What's in them notes?
Okay, first of all, let me just introduce myself.
Okay, we should do that.
I am Crystal Tennille Irby, mother of 4.
I am Thea Monier, mother of 3. I had to do a quick count in my head.
And Nikisha Killings is not with us. So in this episode, we're going to discuss the 92% boundaries and Black women and Black motherhood. And the reason that I think you may have to carry the mac and cheese a little bit is because I read some of Nedra Glover Tawwab's book. There we go. Set Boundaries, Found Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself. But I read it a while back and I looked back at my notes, and what I realized is I don't know if I have boundaries.
Say more.
I mean, I don't know what else to say.
Well, because you cannot have boundaries for yourself. You can not have boundaries with others.
So, and we can get into this a little bit more.
Because I feel the same way, but I think we've talked about it being almost in different directions.
I don't know if I fully understand or have fully articulated my boundaries. I know there are things that I don't do. I know there's shit I don't accept. But I'm not really sure if I have concretely, like, this is a boundary for me, established boundaries. And so that's why, for me, the mac and cheese will definitely be more exploratory. I can share some things that I've learned, but I definitely have more questions than answers. And quite honestly, I think a lot of our episodes this year will be more exploration.
I like that.
Yeah, because of the time that we're in.
Yeah, just the unknown.
The unknown.
Who can say anything definitive right now?
Right. So I just feel like a lot of things, a lot of the episodes will feel more exploratory. And I think a lot of people who listen to us will be like, yeah, I'm kind of toying with that right now as well. And not really sure what the answer is, but I don't have the language yet for this thing, but it's something that I'm feeling. So yeah.
Which I like when you said toying with, that made me smile, because I think that's a great word we should incorporate right now, because it definitely, one, immediately implements play and joy. And I think for Black women, as we're going to discuss, feeling like we have to get things right the first time, which is very unreasonable and unrealistic.
Yeah.
We don't toy.
Yeah, well,
we don't feel like we can toy with things, or like we can like explore, check out, like play with, see what it does, experiment.
Yeah. Here's the truth of the matter right now. And I was in a discussion the other day and I said this, like, everything is up for renegotiation right now.
That's it. Yeah.
Everything I thought I believed, everything I do believe, everything that I'm seeing, how I'm viewing it, the beliefs that I hold, like everything is up for renegotiation right now. And so there will be a lot of toying about ideas that I used to hold fast to. Let me think about that.
And I think that's a perfect counter to a time when things feel so serious.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I mean, what else you gonna
whether
do?
we realize it or not, toying is, how do you meet a hard thing soft?
Yeah.
How do you meet a tough thing, you play? You kind of counter it with its opposite.
Well, I really liked what we did last episode. I'm calling it an imagination jam session, which I thought was really cool.
Okay.
And that's like the toying with it. And that's something that artists do often, especially if you're like a singer or a musician. You do jam sessions and somebody just starts playing and you see what organically comes up or what questions you have or what you're curious about. So I'm also in my Stevie Wonder bag right now. So I think I'll be referring to music and musicians a lot. I'm listening to The Wonder of Stevie, that podcast. So yeah. Okay. All right. So this episode is like all our other episodes. So we'll start out with our responsive reading. Then we'll move on to church announcements, praise reports, and prayer list requests. Then we'll have our mac and cheese, where we're going to talk about the 92%, boundaries, and Black motherhood. And then we'll have our Black Mama Say, which is a little different this time. Lakeisha's not here, so I did something a little different. So it's kind of like, what is your theme song right now? Again, I'm in my Stevie Wonder bag. I was just thinking about music. So yeah. Okay, so let's just hop into our responsive reading. You have a card number?
Why don't we just randomly pick one? Close your eyes and pick one out the deck. Let's see what comes up.
Okay, this is a good one. I think it kind of fits what we're talking about today. This is card number 21. Oh, gosh. I'm so terrible at this. I don't say
my motherhood is rooted in
liberation.
That sounds like 21. One of your cards.
It is. 21. 2 plus 1 is 3.
3. Completion.
Dear Mama, the revolution begins at home. You cannot fight for liberation in the streets and mimic white supremacy at home.
This is 1,000% Crystal's card.
And also 1,000% related to what the 92% are doing right now, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Rooting your parenting in liberation means being willing to be a student. See your children as path makers and path finders. If you decry oppression and are committed to building the promised land by dismantling systemic and institutional oppression outside of your home, then you've got to be willing to build a promised land within your home. And that brings me to our mindfulness quote, or word from the ancestors, as I like to call it, for this episode is: the revolution begins with self in self. That's from Toni Cade Bambara from the essay on the issue of roles. We've used that quote before, but I thought it was pertinent to this episode as well. Okay, so let's move to our church announcements, praise reports, and prayer list requests. Okay, so my first announcement is Community Doula Week is upon us. It's happening right now. Founded by Ebony Williams, who is a community doula right here in South Carolina. And the intention of Community Doula Week is to connect community doula organizations with allies, supporters, and families in celebration of community-based doulas and to increase public awareness of community-based doula services throughout the U.S. and beyond. And I will be hosting a webinar. We have Black Maternal Health Week coming up. I have on my Black Maternal Health shirt, founders and leaders of the Black Maternal Health Movement. Proud of that. So that's April 11th through April the 17th. Starts in a couple of days. The theme is Healing Legacies, Strengthening Black Maternal Health Through Collective Action and Advocacy. So look out for our events regarding that week. But one of our events for that week, which I'm super duper excited about, and this is our last my last announcement, is an event called Down by the Riverside. So in November, we held a space for Black mamas to kind of process the election results, a place where Black mamas could come and talk, be listened to, and affirmed. And so the people who attended wanted more of it. And so we decided to be a little bit more intentional about what we shaped from that. And Thea in, I don't know what episode that was. Was that the grief episode?
It was just you and us. You and me.
Just you and I.
Doing the intro.
I think that was a grief episode. But anyway, we were just toying with, like, where are we right now? And I was like, are we at the altar? And we were like, where are we? Where are we? And Thea was like, you know where we are? We're down by the riverside. So that stuck with me for like 2 weeks. I was like, yeah, what does that mean, down by the riverside? And so just decided to take 4 Black mamas, turn it into Down by the Riverside, and be more intentional with it. And our intention is to offer a space of reprieve for Black mamas where they can explore their deepest desires and tap into their highest imagination. Also, a space where you can come talk a little shit, get some stuff off your chest.
Talk yo shit.
You need to. You know us, we take you high, then we get deep, then we bring you back up. You know what I'm saying? So it'll have that energy to it. And our first one is going to take place on April 13th at noon Pacific time and 3 p.m. Eastern time. So the link to register for that will be in the show notes. It'll be limited capacity, and we will not be advertising it a lot on social media. So again, sign up for our newsletter. We're probably going to advertise it the first 1 or 2 times. And after that, it'll be word of mouth and have to be signed up for our newsletter. But it will be limited capacity. And our opening topic will be community. We're hearing that word thrown around a lot lately. Everyone's saying radical community is going to save us. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Who is community?
Who is community? We throw a lot of words around on social media and with the assumption that people understand that people know how to build that people have that. And so we're going to get into it. And so those are all of my announcements. If you're watching on YouTube, hey, y'all, don't just watch. Make sure you're subscribing, right? If you want to see all the hand motions, I have different hand motions for different things, then come on over to YouTube.
The other day, she did it so much, I thought she was landing the plane. I said, you got to run that back, bitch, because I missed something.
I forgot what I was talking about.
Girl, Michael Jackson, Al Capone, with a Rebecca and Fred Flintstone. I was like,
I don't know what I was talking about.
Hey.
But
it was giving Vogue. It was giving ballroom.
It was giving ballroom. But if you want to see all of that, then hit us up on YouTube. And if you're listening, make sure that you share this episode with at least one person who you feel can benefit from it. And go ahead, Thea.
The first praise report I'd like to give y'all is that a bitch got a new mattress.
Oh, I forgot my praise report, but go ahead. I'll come back to it.
And let's talk about we down by the riverside. What we gonna find as we're down by the riverside, and going back to building the promised land in your home, which Krista said on that card, is, bitch, you got light bulbs that ain't been changed. You got pots that need to be switched out. You got floorboards that need to be swept. My mom had a boyfriend long time ago. When I was going to move into my first apartment, I was just going to get Crystal always gets on me about, girl, this little shit you be doing. I was just like, gonna give me a little bed with a little, and he was like, absolutely not. You're Queenie. And him and my mom set out and got me like this. Now in hindsight, I'm like, that was the best, most beautiful bed. Like it was solid wood. Y'all know what I mean? Not pressed wood.
That's what I have.
It was solid wood.
That's what I have.
It was heavy. It was high. You had to climb into that
That's
bitch.
what I have.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was a thing. It was a thing.
It's a grown folks bed.
It was a
grown person's
folks bed. It was great.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I have not had a good mattress since then. And that was probably 2010, 15 years since I've had the money or the intention or the focus to say, Thea, how you sleep every night is essential to what you're doing in the world. Mm-hmm. And yesterday, a new mattress arrived. We don't have to talk about how.
Praise him.
But it got here.
Won't you praise him right now? Won't you praise him?
I will.
Won't you just...
I will. I said I will.
Take a moment. And I slept
for the first night in 15 years.
This is the church mothers used to do the show. Mm-hmm. Just praise
on a mattress that could actually hold me. Like when I carried out the old mattress.
Pause for the cause. A mattress that could actually hold me.
Mm-hmm. And this is a testimony because it really is. I've been through a lot the last 2 years, and I ain't shared everything on this podcast because it involves people that were in a relationship with me.
It's a little teaser.
Yeah. Is that a little teaser?
We will be sharing that soon. It's a little teaser.
And I'm not public with stuff like that, especially while I'm in it.
Right.
But to overcompensate for not being held, to overcompensate for being as alone physically as I actually had been emotionally, psychologically for decades. Actually, physically being that alone, I was buying so many pillows, so many blankets, so many things to just compensate for the feeling of being held and supported because I was not experiencing that in my earthly bodily life.
I cannot...
And I want to say that because I looked like I was being supported. And it made it so that when I did get to the point where I would voice it, no one would move with urgency. No one would prioritize it. So I did get to the point where I said it and I was trying to set boundaries, but no one was taking them seriously. And setting a boundary and knowing how to enforce one are two different skill sets, right? I can set one, but can I maintain it and enforce it? So
can I just...
Sleeping on... go ahead.
Just say, when we were talking about toying earlier and everything that we believe and held true is up for renegotiation, when you said you didn't look like that, and then when you voiced it, it wasn't held with, or nobody responded to it in urgency. I'm thinking about a saying that that Black people say in our culture, I don't look like what I've been through.
I don't look like what I've been through.
And how we maybe need to...
It was totally cultural coping, right?
Maybe we need to even re-examine some of our cultural sayings and how they're showing up 100%. In our actual living. Yeah.
Listen, cultural coping is 1,000% something that we have to use this time to explore. That's one of the things that boundaries give us the opportunity to explore because I know for a fact how I was conditioned as a Black woman, played, I want to say 70% part, at least 50, the other 50 being upbringing, but I'm
gonna go to 90. That's why you may have to.
It's the truth. And here's what, I want to say getting this mattress yesterday, this time last year, I was on the floor. I was on the floor. And getting this mattress yesterday, even before I laid on it, made me aware of how many things were still in my presence from a time and a season when I was so alone. And I immediately felt the clutter of these extra pillows. And I immediately felt the sadness in them, like the tears I had cried into them. And I put all of it out on the curb yesterday. The mattress, the painting, I'm dropping off the pillows because, they were expensive pillows, and the blankets to Goodwill. And I slept. I slept through the night. Also, I think I've spoken about, like, as a child, having trauma with sleep. Like, because of DV in my home, I have a lot of sleep trauma, right? Which a lot of Black women, I'm sure we do. How do you sleep when you're worried about everything? Everything. So that is my praise report, because that one really basic need being met triggered a lot of psychological cleansing. Kristen, you and I have talked about recently, like, how we can know something in the mind, but the body.
The body.
And I really was like, oh my God, something's here to help my body transition into the safe space, right?
The flesh.
Help me, right? Because even if I know, okay, Thea, you're safe. You're not in those situations anymore. You've done these things. But my body's like, no, bitch. No, being held, sleeping through the night, which sounds like a
minimal
luxury to some of us. So that's a praise report. And I know we'll go more and mac and cheese. I'm so glad we did this topic today. This will be over by the time you all hear this, but I want to start celebrating these little things because, again, I'm coming out of something and I want to be happy about the things that are coming to me. I have the pleasure of being chosen as the keynote speaker for NAMI LA, which was started by B.B. Moore Campbell. So I get to speak about joy to this amazing organization. NAMI is the National Association of Mental Illness. It was started by mothers as a whole organization. This particular chapter was started to focus on women of color mothers by B.B. Moore Campbell, who was struggling with her own child having mental illness. And so it's an honor to be able to speak to this group. And here's the big one. So Akilah S. Richards, who you've heard on our previous podcast, and I, since Fair of the Free Child, when we first connected and did that first episode, we've been like, bitch, one of these days, we gonna work on something together. And so we're introducing our project called Bringing Flowers. It'll be bringingflowers.org, which is where joy and grief interplay. And so this whole project is about looking at what we call the 8 interlocks of joy and grief and these places where they connect and how to play in them, how to explore in them, how to sit in them, how to allow in them. And we have really amazing creative ideas about engaging and immersing people in those experiences with grief and joy. We just wanted to create something very tangible, very accessible, kind of like when you think about the 5 stages of grief, you can bop those. We wanted something similar to be in the culture that can say, if I'm experiencing grief, I shouldn't just look at the 5 stages of grief. I should look at these 8 interlocks as well. Like, I have to see where in my grief, there's also joy present. If I'm in my joy, I have to prepare myself also for, sometimes we mute our joy out of fear of losing the thing that's bringing us joy. So how can we use these interlocks to expand and sit in that joy longer without fear of losing or fear of grief? And if you like the episodes we did on joy and the episodes we did on grief, imagine what it would look like to kind of bring those two things together. And also last thing, I'm offering individual sessions, a total of 9 clients at a time. But I am doing joy immersion work on an individual level. It's taken me years to recover from being a mental health therapist in United States of America. But I am excited to see how joy work works with these couples. I think it's exciting to think about couples who are in a rut or couples who are struggling with grief or all these different things have forgotten how to learn about each other's joy. And so I think it'll be surprising to them, like what brings their partner joy.
I just think it should come with a disclaimer that you're not responsible for
Oh, I will be
what
disclaiming that.
happened.
And so I will be disclaiming that for sure.
You'll be sitting in a session and be like, well, one thing blocking my joy is you. Is this motherfucker sitting on the other side of me?
That's 1,000% going to come up.
I just want people to,
the model is 3 goals. We're going to have 3 joy goals that are focused on and agreed on. 12 weeks, 12 sessions, and it's once we meet once a week.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
If you want to come on the podcast as a couple after and share about your experience, Crystal will be happy to have that.
You can go on Shaping the Shift.
You wouldn't have them talk about it?
I'd have the woman on if she's a mom.
Fair enough. I always say very good. I understand my assignment.
She was a mom.
I understand.
So please keep those announcements in mind. Check our website for the show notes and registration links. Very, very excited about Down by the Riverside, this exploration. And now that I think about it, like, I feel like the podcast is an exploration. This is an exploration. You're not going to leave with a to-do list.
Yeah.
You're going to leave with curiosity. So check our show notes on the website. Please sign up for our newsletter. Because if you're signed up for the newsletter, you're probably getting these announcements before it's even, on the podcast, because we only release twice a month. But in the future, I know for Down by the Riverside, we'll be pulling back from posting it on social media just because of the type of space that we want to curate. So make sure you're signed up for that. And don't just be looking at us on the YouTubes. Subscribe. Okay?
Don't be weird.
Don't be weird. Is that
Stay
birds?
A while.
Are your birds back?
Yeah.
Your birds are back. Okay.
They follow me.
All right. We're going to be moving into this mac and cheese, which was...
Let me put on a sweater.
A lot of it was already in this episode. I mean,
this is going to be good.
This is going to be really good.
I'm going to just grab a quick sweater.
Okay. So we're going to dive into this juicy mac and cheese, the 92% boundaries and Black motherhood. So in the beginning, I was like, yeah, that's good. Let's talk about that. Yeah, I read a book on boundaries a while back. I can, pull some stuff from that. This sounds really, really good. And it was until, as I told you, I looked into my notes. So there just may come a time in this mac and cheese where I'm going to be like, Thea, take the wheel. I guess I want to say, like, again, it's more of an exploration for me than it is sort of hard truths right now. I'll say that.
And I may pass the wheel back.
Okay. Hey.
We might hand y'all the wheel is what we're saying. We might hand y'all the wheel and be like, y'all got what y'all got on this.
What y'all got? Let us know what y'all got on this. So
that's possible.
Before we get started, we want to give a definition of boundaries to hold this conversation in a particular context, because often, especially with mental health terms, now more than ever, terms are thrown out and we assume that people know the meaning or that we're having a conversation based in the same language and definition. So for the purposes of this discussion, we want to give a definition that we will be operating from and also some references. So I'm pulling this from Nedra Glover Tawwab. Her book is Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself. This is a book that Nedra references sometimes, which is
Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. No More,
which is the...
It's the go-to.
It's the go-to on codependency, which is tied to setting boundaries. Okay. So Nedra Glover Tawwab, who is a therapist, relationship expert, and New York Times bestselling author, says, boundaries are statements that make you feel safe and comfortable in your relationships. Sometimes it is behaviors that make you feel safe and comfortable. Before writing this book, and for many years, I thought of boundaries as saying no or cutting people off. I have learned that it's a lot of gray areas. It's all of these situations that we feel very uncomfortable about in our relationship. Now, this is the part that sent me. It is bigger than no. It is bigger than just cutting people off. Boundaries preserve relationships. Cutting someone off is like the ultimate boundary, right? There are 1,000 other boundaries we can set before cutting people off. I didn't remember that. That boundaries are about preserving relationships. And what I thought about with that was, it's not just about preserving relationships with other people.
That's right. Your relationship with yourself.
When I thought more deeply about that, it's about what is the relationship that I want to have with myself, and
That's
preserving or working towards a person who I want to be. Because I think one of the biggest things around boundaries is that we think it could be an end to the relationship. I don't know. I never thought about it as preserving the relationship. I always think of it as something combative.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I've had a hard time setting boundaries with the people who I struggle to set boundaries with. I struggle to set boundaries with Black women.
You do.
I deeply struggle with it.
You do.
For fear I will lose the relationship. I don't think about it as this is a preservation.
This is a way to make it healthier.
Make it healthier. And that really just like stopped me in my tracks. So it just put a lot of things into perspective for me. And it also made me think about the 92% right now and Black women and the way that Black women are responding, in this moment is definitely us exploring setting boundaries. And I think that the strong Black woman trope, right, which we've held on to because it did serve something with us in us to be identified as that because of the other negative stereotypes about Black women, right? But at the same time, it was something that was weighing us down, being the backbone of the community, weighing us down. We have to be these saviors for a democracy that doesn't fully serve us. And this innate thing in us to always respond, always responding to crisis, always jumping in, I think becomes magnified or amplified when you become a mother, a Black mother. You begin to bury yourself, you begin to bury your dreams, you begin to bury your desire because that has been nurtured in you to sacrifice yourself for your community, for your people. And then you have this other life that you're taking care of that you've got to sacrifice yourself for that too. And so when I thought about boundaries are about preserving the relationship, I thought about how not setting those boundaries has cost us relationship with ourselves in terms of our desires, in terms of following, our dreams. And I think that leads to us living through our children. And that leads to us tying our worth to how our children turn out. So it was really deep for me. I had forgot. That
it was all that was there underneath
that, girl. That may have been why I put the book down and was like, I'm gonna get to that later. But it was really, it was really deep. I can
see why we would put that down.
Yeah. But for me, that part about it's about preserving a relationship.
Yeah.
It's about preserving the relationship, for me, that's personal and political.
100%.
Right?
I'm going to start at how I felt when the 92% set that boundary. Now that we have a definition of boundary that you put here, I felt like, finally. Do you remember, Crystal? I think it was 2019, maybe further back. I need to Google it. It was 2015. And let me tell you, Crystal always says about me. What do you say, Crystal?
I don't know.
Crystal says a lot of things about me. Is that I don't do the research because I'm ahead of the research.
Well, I don't say that. You say that.
I do.
You say that.
But you backed me a couple times.
I do back you, but I'm all... But in these days and times, some folks got to do research.
They do. No, but here's how we're applying that. In 2015, I wrote an article entitled "Black People Need to Break Up with White Culture."
Oh, okay, yeah. And
this is the beginning of it. This conversation is long overdue. If I could sit down with Black and white culture, I'd tell them, Black culture, white culture does not want you, does not love you, will not change for you. And if and when white culture makes changes, it will be rooted from a movement within its own culture, not yours. I wrote this article using the framework of a domestic violence relationship.
Right.
And I was saying that Black people are in a domestic violence relationship with white people and white culture. And so for me, the 92% saying we quit was that moment when your friend who's being abused says, actually begins to make up, when they mean it. They've said multiple times, I'm leaving, I'm going to do this, I'm over it, this is the last time. But for me, that moment was like, are we really leaving this time? Are we really breaking up with them? Are we really breaking up with this toxic ass cycle and relationship? And I was like, my thing was like, now I have to make sure they understand boundaries. Now I have to make sure they understand joy. Now I have to make sure they know what to do with it, because just like somebody who leaves an abusive relationship, we're susceptible to returning. We're susceptible to going back to the thing that we know. And these boundaries are so important right now, because the moment you leave is the most fragile, sometimes dangerous time when you are getting out of a domestic violence situation. And we see that because we see the backlash against Black women saying this is our boundary is gaslighting, manipulation, projection, blame, like all the traits of an abuser. All the traits of an abuser. And this was, again, June of 2015. So I've been waiting 10 years for this moment to happen so that Black women could even take the time to see themselves as a group that has been in. We know it on this level, but I have shared before that I was in a situation that was domestic violence and didn't realize that was the trajectory that I was on. Often you don't know that's what's happening.
Yeah, because they don't smack you on the first date. But
exactly.
But let me pause, because white America did smack us on the first date.
They did.
They went to Africa. They enslaved us.
All the things.
Smacked us on the first date.
But they gaslight the shit out of us, acting like it didn't happen, which is more of a borderline personality narcissistic trait.
Well, I mean, we can talk about that. I will scream this to the rooftops. The Constitution is based on the assumption that white men will act right, which is crazy given their
pathology.
Right. So, I mean, if you want to talk about
given their pathology,
I mean, in
that moment I knew, and I felt almost uniquely like, this is a big thing. I still don't think in this moment people yet understand.
Well, I have an article here to talk about it. I have an article here to talk about it.
But I think other people don't understand yet that for
when you say others, who are you talking about?
Anybody that's not a Black woman.
Oh, you don't think they understand yet?
No, not yet. I don't think. Let me tell you why. I can use this domestic violence thing all the way through. We've said we're going to leave, but you don't know if we're going to leave, and we said we're going to do this, but we're going, we move out, we go back in. I think we've had this dance before, but I don't think they understand that this time we have the data that we need finally to take it to the mattress Like to the mattresses, right? Wait, but let me just finish the thought. This whole piece real quick is that. So that moment to me was that wake up moment for Black women to recognize that we are in a domestic violence relationship, and it's not about how much we love or we care. It's not about how much we put in. It's not about how much we effort. This has nothing actually to do with us. This is about these other groups and their psychology, which is not something that we can change. And for the first time, we recognize that it was ineffective for us to continue to pour into a strategy that we actually don't have like control over. And so there's this break in the psyche in this moment. There's a moment, an opportunity in the psyche that we can seize on. But I knew that it would require things like Down by the Riverside. It would require things like the joy episode, the grief episode. It would require actual conversations that keep us focused on our inner process and not getting pulled into whatever else is happening out there in the world.
Okay, let me say this. When I think about it like that, I haven't been working with, in relationship with white people for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's been since, it may have been when I moved from LA to California.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And let me explain this now that I'm thinking about it. So when I lived in LA, I worked at CalState LA, and I was the program coordinator for the Pan-African Student Resource Center. And CalState LA had a Pan-African Student Resource Center. It had all these different centers, API, Student Resource Center. So they understood the necessity of building within your own community, within your own culture. And from that, I never really went back into kind of being in relationship with white people in the way that you are talking about. And so I think,
well, and this is not about white people, it's about whiteness, because this was happening in those groups.
Right.
In Latinx and API, right? So even how we had that structured, because we both worked at the Cross-Cultural Center at a certain point, it's whiteness that I think we broke up with this time.
But I think when my experience there and your experience there were completely different. And maybe because the Black Panthers, a lot of them have roots in the South, but it was founded mostly on the West Coast in California, and they were about building within the community. They were about anti-racism, but a lot of their work was like, we're fighting oppression because we want to build in our community. So I think there's something particular about the California landscape. And, I'm not naive. California wasn't always a blue state and all of that. Yeah. But I think that there was something that it did to me when I was there, that when I came back to South Carolina, I was like, oh yeah, but I know I'm not doing that again. I know I'm not going back into that type of dynamic again. So I feel like I had that break before Barack Obama's second term.
And even think about the time period. Trump had it happen. So when I wrote this article in 2015, Trump had it happen. Yeah, we were still kind of in the basking in the Obama stuff.
We thought we were going to be. We thought we were going to be in Hillary Clinton's America. Hillary has been wishing to be president since she was in 4th grade.
We surely, now that they've had a Black president and experienced these things, this is not going to happen anymore.
Yeah,
that's why the DB reference makes sense to me. And when I think about it, me going to the South helped me to see that too, because watching Black people live amongst it and understanding that when you're living in something abusive, but you don't see how to not live around something abusive, it feels like abuse is everywhere. You and I had this conversation yesterday. When somebody's in a fucked up situation with somebody, their trauma skills helps them to survive being in that until they can be out of it.
Right.
And when you got land and your family, everybody living here that you know and that you love, to accept it as DV while in it is, how do you survive it? How do you live it every day?
And I want to make this clear. We're not throwing Black Southern people under the bus. That's not.
No, not at all.
What I'm saying. I'm not saying they're weak. I'm not saying that they're
it's not that at
passive
all.
and they accept
It's
it.
like, how do you know water is wet when you're in the water? Like,
yeah, I mean, it's like, I think that they know.
They know.
And they are still committed to a different vision.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And they still are exercising that muscle of hope, because hope is definitely a muscle. So I do think that they know. And again, the civil rights movement was started in the South, and that had a different vision than let's say the Black Panther Party. So I just want to be clear, because I know there's also a thing right now like, well, Black people in the South, I have mad respect for Black people organizing in the South, because we're really
belly of the beast.
We're really in the belly of the beast, right? And especially
the consequences of what these folks are doing are going to hit different in those spaces. Right. We were talking about something about funding, and people were like, well, stop taking funding from blue states. That affects Black people in red states.
Right.
You know, like, that's massive.
Right.
Black people in these states are going to get swept into the consequences of these red state actions.
Right. And what they're fighting for is the right to exist anywhere. Like, I shouldn't have to go to California. I shouldn't have to move up north. My ancestors' blood, sweat, and tears is in this soil. I shouldn't have to be in exile. Do you feel like
they're a part of the group that's saying, I'm not doing anything?
I think they are.
How does that look in the South?
I think, well, let me reference the article.
Okay.
We have language people. Y'all know I love when somebody gives language to something. Because if you listen to our episodes, you know, Thea and I have been around and round about, well, what does it mean that we quit? What does it mean that we quit? Yeah. So I think this is language from an article in Essence called Black Women Are Done, Reclaiming Power After the 2024 Election. The power of Black women virtual convening brought together nearly 400 women, encouraging them to prioritize self-care, embrace their purpose, and foster intergenerational unity to move forward. And so what that looks like is, this is from Dr. Angela Anderson, host, writer, and well-being expert, who was a part of a virtual convening by Felicia Butterfield, who was the National Youth Vote Director for Obama for America, and the founder of SEED. And after the election, she did a virtual convening titled The Power of Black Women, and they had over 400 participants. And this is what Dr. Angela Anderson said. She said, I want to remind you this, that you are valuable and you are productive. You are not valuable because you are productive. And I think sometimes we equate our value with the things that we're doing, and that's why rest is a foreign concept to us. I would add joy in there as well, and creativity. Dr. Anderson made this lesson catchy with the acronym DONE. D, double down on rest and dedicate yourselves to healthy boundaries. Delivering from a deficit is over. O, own your stuff and let everyone else own theirs.
That's a hard one. That O is hard, bitch.
Don't take on so much that you're overwhelmed. N, nurture yourselves first and then nurture the community. Dr. Anderson used a tree metaphor to illustrate the point. You've never seen a tree that has a rotten trunk in healthy branches, because the trunk must be healthy first, and then everything that branches off from it is healthy. And so it is a requirement that you prioritize yourself first so that everything that you're responsible for is then healthy as well. E, extend the same grace you extend to everyone else to yourself. It's okay to be tired and to ask for help. She closed by saying, no longer am I willing to prioritize those to whom I am replaceable at the expense of those who I am not. So to me, what this looks like in the South, I'll take the reproductive justice movement for an example. For years, Black women have been saying, you do not need to root this movement in abortion only. You need to root this movement in reproductive justice. Even when it was going to the Supreme Court, arguing, the Black women felt like, argue it as an issue of justice, right? And so when Roe was overturned, then Black women were like, we told you not to do it that way in the first place.
Well, that's true about the single voting issue going into the election. We said.
Right. And so now I think what that looks like is, number one, Black women have built the reproductive justice movement, like period. But what that looks like is we are not going to join coalitions that do not have an intersectional lens and that are not looking at and are not following our lead. Not that you hire us to do the work, but you can get on board this and follow.
Right.
So I think that is what that looks like. Now, and at the forefront of the organizing is the care and the protection of Black women. Yes. And that is now non-negotiable.
So it sounds like it's shifted to either let us lead or get out of the way. And if it doesn't prioritize Black women, then we're not participating. I think there are other parts where, and I'm thinking about this, like when I think about grief, when somebody passes away, like different family members respond differently to that. You know what I mean? Like, for example, the first Chicano Studies department so the first ethnic studies program started in San Francisco. And it was the first Black studies program in the country. The second one was started at Cal State LA, where Crystal and I both worked at a certain point. The first Chicano Studies one was there because that group of Black people that was negotiating for the Black Studies department at Cal State LA would not move forward, was offered their department and would not move forward without the Chicano Studies department being offered something as well, without that being established as well. So they could have said, we got ours, we got two locations, But they said they need theirs too. And they used their position to create more space for another group. So whereas I think in the South, it's definitely a matter of survival, right? To stay politically engaged, even with other people, but shifting the dynamic to make sure they understand who has to be at the lead and who has to be at the center for this shit to actually work. In blue states and spaces like that, I fear that what I felt was happening was
fear. That's
because
interesting.
You are in space with me as a Black woman, you're not holding your own people to task. Because what you think is every time I get a space, what you know, not what you think, what you know historically to be true, is that when I get a space, I'm going to say, let's make it POC. And you're going to get included. So what this election showed us was you ain't been doing your motherfucking work because you've been cheating off our paper. And now, without our paper to cheat off of, we're going to see. Because what is the point in a coalition if everybody's not equitably showing up with their strength? If everybody's not giving at the same amount? It's not a coalition anymore then. It is codependent. Show me that you can lead at something without me. Show me that you can create a space and invite me into it.
You equated the relationship to DV, right? And I also want to add here, I think people view it the opposite. I think people think that people in blue states are more politically engaged than people in the South are.
I think people in blue states can be politically lethargic. I think they're politically privileged and they don't know how bad it could get.
Yeah, okay.
They take it for granted.
I agree. I just think that people have I think the narrative is different, though. I agree with you.
Now again, even in that circumstance, Black people still show up the most consistently.
Oh,
even in that circumstance. But just thinking about the whole state and all the other people in it.
So bringing this back to boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. So you equated.
Wait, I want to say one more thing before we go to the boundaries. Give me an example, South, blue state, red state, or otherwise, of another group that created space for other people besides themselves. Give me an example of a group that got an opportunity and said, wait, we're not doing this without Black women. We need you to make space for them too. We need you to make space for Black bodies too. There isn't one. And this here is the need for the boundary. Even if, for some of it, we have different reasons, right? We're going to have different reasons. For those of you who need to understand it on a effectiveness level, like for me, sometimes what helps me to really be done with a thing, like the acronym, is like, oh, that shit don't work. That shit don't work. So why would I keep pouring water into a bucket with a hole in it? That don't make no sense to me, right? It finally clicks that, oh, you're not, that TikTok, surprise, surprise. It's like, you're not, and I've had this, talk about the political and the personal. I've had this moment in relationships with partners. Oh, I thought we were partners. So I'm here sacrificing because my idea of partnership knows no bounds. Knows no bounds. Notice that. Has no boundaries.
Has no boundaries.
My idea of partnership and coalition has no boundaries. Has no limits. But the people I'm dealing with, personal or political, there's dust.
Well, this is also what King was talking about. This is also what King talked about. He also said this: we have fought hard and long for integration, as I believe we should have. And I know that we will win, but I've come to believe we're integrating into a burning house. I'm afraid that America may be losing that moral vision she may have had. And I'm afraid that even as we integrate, we are walking into a place that does not understand that this nation needs to be deeply concerned with the plight of the poor and disenfranchised. Until we commit ourselves to ensuring that the underclass is given justice and opportunity, we will continue to perpetuate the anger and violence that tears at the soul of this nation. I feel
send me that clip.
What he is essentially saying is what you are talking about. Like, if this is a DV relationship, right, it's possible to heal from it.
Yes.
But you have to have truthful conversations. You have to set boundaries. I was trained as a community educator for domestic violence years ago. But you have to have an honest conversation. You have to set boundaries. And when the person who has inflicted the harm is allowed to communicate, have relationship with, there's boundaries put around that so that the person who is harmed can heal, and any of the collateral damage can be assessed, from that. And then you can have reconciliation, maybe, but in order for that to happen, the entire dynamic of the relationship has to change. Because domestic violence is not about just beating someone up and I can't control my anger. I know it's been boiled down to, well, they need to go to anger management and da-da-da-da. But domestic violence, just like rape, is about power and control. And so
if you know that's what you're in, once you know that's what you're in, what you know is that the things that you actually crave and want are not possible here. Love, connection, security, protection, right? So going back to, and I slipped out of my mouth, our idea of partnership, our idea of coalition, our idea of justice, love, knows no bounds.
Well, can I just say,
here's the thing, it should. It must, and it should, and it has to, if we want it to be healthy, sustainable, and beneficial to us. Here's what we learned. Everybody else got bounds. Everybody else got a point where they won't cross. Everybody else got a point that they're not going to go past by which to disturb their peace, by which to be inconvenienced, by which to be uncomfortable. They all got a standard for that. But us, we don't know. We will go past comfort. We will go past peace. We will go past health. We have to decide, even if they don't want to get healthy, are we willing to?
I'm in my Stevie Wonder bag right now, so I just
Stevie Wonder bag.
I just want to bring this back to Stevie. So what you're saying
ribbon
is,
in the sky.
No, I'm not even gonna go ribbon in the sky.
No, we're not going there.
What you're saying is, Black folks. I'm taking it to 1976. I mean, you know why. What you're saying is, Black folks are loving in the vein of the song "As" until the rainbow burns the stars out of the sky.
Girl.
Until the ocean covers every mountain high.
Exactly.
Until
the day is night and night becomes the day.
Until 8 times 8 is 4.
Until 8 times 8.
Always.
Always.
Right?
We are.
Right. So you're saying that's what Black people are doing.
And now I'm saying that when we quit, they started singing, I never dreamed you'd leave. In summer. I thought we would go and come. You would go and come back home. I never dreamed you leave in summer.
Okay.
Is that enough Stevie for you?
I just wanted to, I'm in my Stevie bag, so I just wanted to, But
now they singing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true. Black people, I think for me, the boundary is less about, I ain't doing this, to me, the boundary is less about that. The boundary for me is, we are making the decision to heal.
Because be healthy. Yes, to get healthy.
There's always been a talk about Black people need to do this. And, you remember the song Pants on the Ground? Like, Black, you need to pull up your pants. You need to get education. You ain't doing this. You remember Pants on the Ground? Pants on.
I do, which is why I'm very upset with you for bringing that up. And you know how easily distracted I am. I'm trying to be in my Rachel Maddow bag right now. Like, focus on the point.
Joy Reid bag.
Edit that. I'm trying to be in my Joy Reid bag.
Joy Reid bag. Okay. But, and like whenever you go to a panel or whatever, it's all these things of what Black people need to do. I used to facilitate a space called Healing Us. And it was just for Black people to come and have a space to explore healing, right?
Yeah.
And so I've always believed the only thing Black folks need to do is heal. And so for me, the boundary, I've come to realize I'm not obsessed with what we're doing, what we're not doing. To me, it says, this is an opportunity for us to really explore healing.
And let me say, that's a lot of work.
Well,
and let me, but that's that in and of itself. I agree. But my point is, even what you're saying, the healing is enough for us to be focused on, y'all. It's so much there because you when you did the owning my stuff, I was explaining to somebody the other day that being born
and let everyone else own theirs. Don't take on so much that you're overwhelmed.
I was explaining to somebody the other day, so let's keep this metaphor going. Black women are born into a domestic violence situation. We're born into it as witnesses, and then we start to experience it more directly as we get older. And I grew up in a household that had DV. And what I was explaining to this person is that when people say the word boundaries to me, or like you don't have to own your stuff, what they don't understand is living in those conditions blur what that looks like. You don't know what's your stuff and what's other people. You don't know where you end and other people begin, particularly Black women, because
that's called enmeshment. That's called enmeshment. Don't know the difference between what you feel and what others feel.
It's when my identity is so wrapped up in you that I can't distinguish. Where is my line and my well-being? This goes back to, I can't remember who said this, so please forgive me. I partly want to say Malcolm X, but I might be wrong. Was like, you know, when you would ask this enslaved person,
Malcolm X,
you know,
girl, it had to be Malcolm. It had to be Malcolm.
If Master sick, we sick. Right. That is the mentality.
Can we just pause and applaud Denzel for how he delivered that line? Because it was because
that's what came to mind. I was like, how do I know this? How do you know that?
It's Malcolm.
If Master's sick, we sick. If our baby's sick, we sick. If our partner's sick, we sick. Like we have been so weed. We're so weed that is going back to your point about healing. It's more than enough for us to do and focus on. It's more than enough. It's decades of work to figure out the O. Just the O. And there's 4 things on that list she gave. Just the O. It's a regulation issue. It's a nervous system issue. I don't know if I'm okay unless I know if everybody else around me is okay. That's when I have permission to be okay. Unlearning that I can be okay in the midst of everybody else not being okay is intensive work.
Let me say this. I just want to bring this back to Black motherhood, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it is difficult for us to witness as parents. It's difficult for us to figure out, is it something that I'm doing wrong, or is this just my child's journey? And I'm here to witness that. It's very hard to resist the urge to jump in because you don't know if it's your work and if it's not your work, right? So the importance of when she talked about your purpose, doing your part means leaning into your purpose, right?
Mm-hmm,
Doing your part means leaning into your purpose, right? So when I think about parenting, my purpose is to nurture my child to their highest being, but also knowing I can't give my child everything that they need. There's some things that my child won't get from me. That's very tough to sit in when the moment comes, right? So what I have learned is that the way to learn, own your stuff and let everyone else own theirs and to lean in your purpose is you have to trust that if you don't have the ability to give your child what they need, then someone or something will step in to provide that. And that's hard. That's hard when you live. That's hard when you live in a culture
that doesn't give a fuck about your children,
but also that's rooted in individualism, no community, right? That's very difficult to trust,
to believe, and trust.
So it's really hard to witness. And what I've learned is, in not watching the news, well, how will I know what's going on? Should I do this? Should I do that? I have had to trust, Crystal, stay in your purpose, do your work, and trust that's someone else's work, that someone else is meant to do that they will step in and step up. You have to trust that. And it's really hard because it goes against the grain of this culture.
Well, because let's take it back further. Our work should never have been raising white folks' kids.
Right.
Our work should never have been cleaning their houses,
birthing their children.
So, again, we have to really think about, when did the opportunity to witness or even distinguish our work from their work start? It's very recent. It's very recent, and
you think recent?
I think it's pretty recent, because
what do you mean when you say recent?
When we got the moment to begin to separate and have some distinction. We went to fighting against racism. Fighting to end racism. When ending racism isn't our work. Trying to end racism is
okay.
ending. We can't end racism if it's white induced. It's white people have to end racism.
Right. Mm-hmm.
We turned our attention to trying to fight and end a thing that wasn't ours to end.
Okay.
Because we were under it. We've been able to be introspective about ours and theirs. Now, we see it, again, in Audre Lorde's work. We see it, but seeing it as a broader movement and not just like an essay but like as a way of life, or that language, that is recent, right? So, Black Panther
Party was pretty clear.
Black Panther Party, but again,
we're on our own shit.
Nothing ever became like fully, nothing fully permeated. And as soon as it was about to, something would happen, right? And so I think that witnessing for your own benefit versus witnessing for safety and as a form of hypervigilance, right, are two different things. For the most part, we've had to witness out of a space of hypervigilance, and also we've never been able to self-determine our work. Our work has been in response to surviving them, right? Now, we're talking about using this moment as an opportunity to do exactly what you just said, right? How do I watch my child get a need met? How do I watch how they navigate things? How do I watch something else come in and meet that need? How do I build? And I want to say that when I say it, I feel everything in my body, alarms go off. It feels like a safety issue to witness. It feels like I'm making something unsafe, or I'm allowing something to be unsafe when I'm witnessing.
Absolutely.
But that's why I go back to, see, we have plenty of things to do with this time. We have plenty of things to work on in this time, because that takes a tenderness. And I think the other word she used was extending grace. That takes a grace that we need to offer ourselves to be able to sit with and that's also the danger of going back in. A lot of us are going to jump back in because we can't tolerate the discomfort of what you're describing.
It's extremely uncomfortable. I mean, I'm going to be the first to admit it made me want to jump back into work around dismantling systemic and institutional oppression. It's extremely uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. After the election, though, the day after, I literally could not move my body.
Yeah, I remember. Mm-hmm. I remember.
This is not hyperbole. I would have to literally pick up my legs. And that was hard. Thank God my mama was here. And that was hard because I couldn't move my arms.
Mm-hmm.
I could not sleep. And when I did sleep, I would be woken up out of my sleep with deep fear and panic, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm the chair of this South Carolina Doula Steering Committee. I'm supposed to host the chair's meeting that Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
There was absolutely no way.
Mm-hmm.
There was absolutely no way to do it. And I knew I couldn't do it physically, and still to write the email, I still felt, oh my God, how is this going to get done? Who's going to step in and do the, that was still in me. And I'm telling you, I'm someone who my work centers Black people. I work with Black people. I have created a job for myself that is about Black people. And I still struggle with that. So it is difficult. It is so difficult for Black women in particular to witness, because of what we feel is at stake.
What is, absolutely. So and what we've been made to feel solely our responsibility.
That's what we have to accept.
That's the thing, because we don't feel like if we can take a break, somebody else is going to step in. See, this is why this time is different. We said, even if the shit crashes, we can't step in.
That's so scary.
Normally,
that's terrifying.
But it's terrifying. So I wrote down, boundaries create space to witness, assess, reprioritize, reimagine, and heal, right?
Right.
Boundaries create the spaciousness to do that. And for the whole duration we've been in this country as Black women, we cannot name a time when we've done that.
Well, I want to offer something there. I do want to offer a time period that we rarely ever talk about. Reconstruction.
I do think, yes. And, right, during Reconstruction, Black women were still focused on like their families and the people in their community. I'm thinking like just as a Black woman.
I mean, patriarchy is a hell of a drug. I don't know what I mean, come on.
It's a hell of a drug.
I don't know.
And like, so I think like when I say that this is
offering something.
This is a historic moment.
Facts.
This is a historic moment. And I think our grandmothers and great-grandmothers are actually really proud that we're taking this moment and shouldn't feel rushed out of it because the truth is it's the best thing we can do for this nation. And let me tell you why. It's not working. Us having the space to witness, assess, reprioritize, reimagine, and heal can only benefit everyone else. But so I just want to say that I think that when I'm thinking about how do we hold the boundary, how do we understand it as historic, which makes it really significant. And we acknowledge that it's difficult. So like things like down by the riverside or this bringing flowers, things must be created to support that discomfort and that exploration and all that.
I have to shout out your joy work, Akila's grief work, and I have to shout out Trisha Hersey's rest work. I do. I mean,
100%. We must. We have that language. I think all that even led up to us being able to say
another
quit.
thing. And I have to shout out the work of Black maternal health because bringing people back to ancestral practices like birth worker support during your birth, midwives, and things like that. I have to shout out that work as well.
So imagine that all those things that, thank God, they were happening at the same time, these other things were happening. That somebody was thinking about rest. That somebody was thinking about joy. That somebody was thinking about grief. That somebody was thinking about Black mothers. Thank God that was happening while we were taking care of the rest of the world, because those things truly
all work by Black
made
women.
It possible.
All work by Black women.
Those things made it possible for us to have the language the day after that election to say, we fucking quit. Those things made that possible. And we didn't just leap off, like you're saying, we didn't just leap off a building. There's frameworks already here. We didn't just quit with nothing. We have frameworks. We invest in those frameworks. We were doing this podcast. This podcast was a part of that preparation, talking about Black mother creativity, talking about not being the graveyard of our dreams.
Right, because some of the things, I mean, shout out to Dr. Angela Anderson, but some of the things she said and done, we have been saying.
I'm not going to go there with you because that was my thought, but I thought I was being a Leo.
No. I
like the acronym that makes it like clean for us.
Let me be clear. I don't feel slighted in that. I feel affirmed. I feel to me that says that there's something in the ether.
That's right.
There's something that.
But what the point you just made was really important.
Yeah.
The point you just made was really important, which is that we didn't just walk off the job with nothing. We have frameworks. We got people. We got people to follow. We got work. There's episode on episode of Shaping the Shift, of Fair the Free Child. We are prepared for this moment. We just have to choose it, though. Recently, let me go here. A coach said to me, I don't know how much of this to share, but let me think about it. You are used to being forced into your receiving mode. You're used to something having to push you into. Think about what that looks like for us. Health crisis. We receive if we can't move, if we can't care for ourselves.
Black
right?
don't crack, but we die early.
So think about what has had to happen to force. Think about what we just had to re-elect this man to force us into receiving mode. Well, but then what they said to counterbalance that was this time you're going to be invited into it, but you're going to have to choose it. So the invitation is here, but we have to right now choose to sit in a deeply feminine energy of receiving, of creativity, of healing. We have to choose it. We have to choose Yamaya. We have to choose Oshun. We have to choose. We have to choose these things. We have to choose them. Because if we don't choose them, we will end up back. Some of us will end up back in that cycle. Some of us will not.
I want to talk about that in terms of counterdependency.
Yeah, you said you was going to talk about this, and I do want to hear it. That's in your notes.
Right, counterdependency. And so, Nedra Tawwab defines counterdependency. And I got this from her. I don't know if she coined it or what, but this is what she said about it. Someone who's counterdependent believes other people can't help me, not being able to accept help, which led me to think struggles with vulnerability and builds walls. That was something that came up for me. And she said, these people are often cycle breakers.
What does that mean?
People who are counterdependent are often cycle breakers. So you're breaking a cycle in your family. You're breaking cultural cycles, community cycles, political. Like that's what I was thinking. And I do think about Black women. I know myself. I'll speak for myself. So my husband is the breadwinner in our family. And I was raised, you're going to be a Black woman in this world. You got to be able to take care of yourself. And I'm the youngest of 4 children. If I needed help, I knew I could call my siblings. I knew it, but I would have to be in dire straits. I'm not calling them when I see the trouble coming. I'm calling them when the trouble has come, the trouble has ran me over, and the truck has backed up and ran me over again. Because even though they said they would help me, I didn't truly believe it. I didn't truly believe it because it was ingrained in me. No one is going to save you. No one is going to help you. Or you have to be prepared if no one can help you. Right? And so when I got married, I got pregnant. And he was like, just stay home. Like, when I tell you I didn't know what to do with myself, when I tell you I was waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then our daughter came to live with us, I was afraid that, oh God, if this nigga cut up, I don't have...
What am I going to do?
What am I going to do? I don't have a backup plan.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And so those walls and my lack of vulnerability began to show up in my relationship in other ways because I felt like I had surrendered so much that I had to hold something back.
Yeah, just in case.
Just in case.
This is what Gabrielle Union was talking about.
Yeah. The thought of like, financially, I was completely dependent on him.
That's scary. It sounds scary to us.
It was.
You know who it doesn't sound scary to?
White women. And so when I think about that personally, and then I think about that politically, Black women do feel like nobody else is going to do it. So we have to do it. Nobody else is going to help us.
And we have to challenge that. That's the hard part. We have to by not doing.
But then comes, when I think about the vulnerability aspect of this, is us leaning into these frameworks that we have already built instead of doing that. That's very vulnerable. That's very scary because I'm over here healing.
Yeah.
And the Department of Education is getting dismantled.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
so
it is.
It's very scary.
As you described counterdependence, what I realize is we're probably both at the same time. There's areas of our life where we're more codependent. There's areas where we're more counter. I can see areas of my life where I'm I struggle with codependency, and I can see definitely where counterdependency has
and listen,
screwed me out of some
let me
things,
tell you,
or like made me make bad decisions.
As mothers, we've got generational work to do on that, because that was passed down to me. It was the way that I was operating, and our 2 oldest children will not ask us for help. I was like, but I wasn't outwardly doing that. But then I think, was I though? Like, was I?
And even if we're not outwardly doing it, they got the message.
They picked up on something. They picked up on something that they will not ask for help. And so it's very hard for us to lean into those other frameworks, because that requires vulnerability. All the messaging that we've gotten about midwives and not being safe, and doulas coming to hospitals and don't know what they're doing, and they don't get along with nurses, and all this messaging is like, is that safe though? Like, is having a midwife safe? Like,
yes.
You just feel very, very vulnerable.
Yeah, but we deserve vulnerability.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be a part of our healing. And I'm grateful that you just reminded us of the frameworks that did exist. Like, we didn't just walk off the job. What enabled us to do that was the fact that models were being built already, and we were seeing them, and we were getting those messages. We had ordered the rest decks, and read the book. We had done these things. What I want people to know is it's scary, and it's okay to explore a new alternative. It's what we do. And like Crystal just said, we are the cycle breakers. We're in a cycle that is not going to break unless we do something differently. And so consider that this is us doing something differently. This is us doing something revolutionary and evolutionary.
What does it mean, though? Because I hear this a lot, and I heard you just say it. And when I hear it, I get like, oh God, my anxiety. I'm not ready to die. When I hear you say, what does it mean to watch it burn down? Like, what does that mean for us? Like, I feel like watching it burn, like, will be the ashes.
I don't know that we'll be watching it burn.
Okay.
I think it will be burning.
Okay.
But we will be building and healing, and
okay. So I'm feeling a little bit better.
Yeah. Something's gonna be burning.
Yeah.
But also something else is gonna be brewing. Something else is going to be baking. Something else is going to be happening. That's not the only thing that's happening. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Does that make sense? And so
it does make sense.
When we describe it, that you're right, though, we do hear it that way. But my point is, it's time to focus on the alternative. It's time to put our energy there. And because we are the cycle breakers, and we always will be, we are the mothers of the earth. We are going to be, if we want something, new to happen, then
you know what, Remy,
we are the ones who are going to do something new.
I can't. At 3 hours every 2 weeks, Thea. That's all we ask.
He did good. He did good for 2 hours. He's still a pup. Oh, he's still a puppy. He did good for 2 hours. He did good. You did good, honey. Look at that. Look what you did. Your auntie's going to come around one day. It's fine. Just give her a little space. Give her a little time. If you were a big dog, she would appreciate you. If you were a big dog,
you wouldn't be hopping up there like that.
No, it couldn't be. It couldn't be hopping up like that. That's very true. It's very true.
I do think leaning into the boundaries means, like you said, leaning into these new frameworks. When you become a Black mother, all of this stuff is amplified.
For sure.
To like the 10th degree. And so and we're the people who are, raising the next generation.
And I'm curious about, we're also in a unique position as Black women to ask our children what they want. And to use that data as a part of this shaping.
I think that's critical, Thea, because
we don't think of that. We have to know for them what they want, but I think it's a great time to ask them.
That makes me think of yesterday. I was watching the Red Table Talk that Nedra Tawwab was on, and Lauren London was on that talk as well. And she said that because her boundaries were not respected when she was a child, and she felt like her boundaries were ignored when she was a child, when she got older, she turned to violence to reinforce her boundaries. And so that is mimicking white supremacy. 100%. And so I do think it's important to ask our children, what do they want? And to be curious about what are their boundaries during this time. Because, I mean, my children
about that all the time.
My children are well aware of what's going on, you know, in the world.
I think about that a lot. Again, that's Akila's work in favor of the free child, right? Like, my children are sovereign territory, and if I'm not careful, I will colonize them. Their ideas really could spark so many thoughts and creativity for what comes next.
And that's another reason why I think it's vital to lean into these new frameworks to model. If you've been leaning into the frameworks and you know about them, to introduce them to our children and model them for our children, you know?
Yes. And make sure that these models have frameworks that can work with children as well.
Yeah.
What does rest look like for children? What does joy look like for children? What does grief look like for children?
And how do you respond when your children are resting? How do you respond when your children are resting?
I told Crystal the other day, Black people can't stand to see somebody rest.
No.
They'll be like, oh, you got time for
That should have been a Black mama say. That's going to be the Black mama say one week. That's going to be a Black mama say.
You cannot, for 5 seconds, put your finger like, oh, you going on vacation? Oh, must be nice.
That comes from enslavement. Sun up to sundown.
Must be nice.
Sun up to sundown. You got to be doing something. That also comes from white Christianity. An idle mind is the devil's playground. I mean,
my grandma says that all the time.
An idle mind is a playground for imagination. But yeah, how do we respond when our children are resting? How do we respond when our children are experiencing joy and their room ain't clean? You know what I'm saying? Ain't took out the trash, but you steady laughing, want to go somewhere with your friends and have fun. Like, how do we? It got a little personal there. I know it got a little.
It was a little dig. It
got a little personal. It did.
It was a little dig. Did you feel it? You were like, I crossed the line. I felt the line. You ever do that? You're like, ooh, that might be the one that gets me. I might, Iwa. That might come up. I know. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. But I mean, how do we respond, and what are the ways in which we are mimicking white supremacy when it comes to that? I had to rethink the whole chore thing, right? Because we was up on Saturday morning, cleaning up on Saturday morning, and everything had to be clean, throughout the week, right? And I'm expected to be on honor roll, to be involved in all of these things, and really.
And at that time, we didn't have social media, we didn't have certain distractions,
but sort of interrogating. Interrogating, repeating that. And not that it didn't serve me, but is there a new framework?
Is there a new framework? And is the context, how different is the context?
Yeah.
I think this is good, Crystal. I feel like we gave and we came across some really good.
Yeah.
So we're doing something a little different today. Normally, our final segment, Black Mama Say, is where we put our own twist on sayings from Black mamas. But this time, we are going to be sharing what is your theme song right now. And we have visuals. So you should come to the YouTube, watch the visuals, and subscribe. Right, Crystal? Did I do that right?
Thank you. That's very good. I like how you put all that across.
I'm paying attention.
That's nice.
Maybe one day I'll be vice executive producer.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll have to see. I can't make any promises.
Staff. I just be support staff.
Can't make any promises. But if you hear some noise in the background, I'm telling you.
That's my dog.
It's Thea's dog. So if you want to be vice anything, you got to get that dog under control.
I don't want to be vice. Okay, just do your song. See, you took a good thing.
So y'all know how we love, I love making a playlist. I love making a playlist. So that's kind of where this came from. And also, again, I'm in my CB Wonder bag. And so we'll have a little playlist for this little episode. I'll put a little playlist together for yours.
My song is not very playlisty, but it'll be an experience.
All songs are playlisty. It depends on what you entitle the playlist.
It's true.
Yeah. So I'm in my 1976 bag. I'm in my Stevie Wonder bag. So I'm torn between two songs.
Are they both on the same album? Do I need to pull another album?
No, they're both on songs in the key of life. So I'm pulling between two songs. So it's either...
Krista. Look at the hand.
We are terrible influencers. It's horrible. We just need somebody to partner with us. We can't be no influencer.
Yeah, we can't do all that.
We just need a partner.
Take us as we are.
You just gotta take us as we are.
The booklet.
I'm torn between, but I think I've landed on something. I was torn between Pastime Paradise, which was on Songs in the Key of Life, or Have a Talk with God, which is also on there. I'm landing on Pastime Paradise because in that song, the first verse is about people living in a pastime paradise. Mm-hmm. The second verse is about living in a future paradise. And so that's why
I like that.
I'm on that song, and there's something that happens at the end of that song when the chanting comes in and then the choir comes in. Mm-hmm. It literally gives me chills, and it pushes me. It pushes me to work towards that future paradise that he's talking about. So I think that's like my theme song right now. When I think of like future paradise, I think of so much room for creativity and imagination. So
you said it gave you chills as a kid too.
It gave me chills as a kid.
I thought that was like powerful.
It gave me chills as a kid. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's fine.
So that's going on. Okay. So mine is, I was introduced to this artist kind of recently.
Okay.
His name is, I think, Brian Eno. That's his name, Brian Eno. And this album is called Another Green World. And he's really known for atmospheric music a lot of the time. Like, the kind of music you put on like productive morning Spotify playlist.
Writing
or like
music.
When you're writing music, or like if you're, or dreaming music, things like that. Mm-hmm. And there's a song
like
here.
In the vein of Andre 3000's latest album?
Yes, in the vein of that. But like
that.
He's like kind of like one of the early people who were doing that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So the song I like from here, my favorite one on here is I'll Come Running to Tie Your Shoe. And
that's cute.
It is, right? And it makes me think of like...
It makes me think of what we just talked about.
It does, because I think in order to be humanized, we've had to push ourselves to such extremes to feel love, to show that we give love. And I'm currently learning that the love I want isn't extreme. It's like, I would love someone who just comes running to tie my shoe. There's something so like sweet about that. So a couple of the lyrics real quick, it says, I'll find a place somewhere in the corner. I'm going to waste the rest of my days just watching patiently from the window, just waiting seasons change. Someday, oh, my dreams will pull you through that garden gate. I want to be the wandering sailor, where silhouettes by the light of the moon. I sit playing solitaire by the window, just waiting seasons change. You'll see one day those dreams will pull you through my door, and I'll come running to tie your shoe.
That's more of a poet than a songwriter.
Yeah, it's very poetry.
And for those of you watching on YouTube, Thea's looking up at her phone.
Yeah, for the
when she's looking at the lyrics. But
I'm looking up.
That's very poetic. It's very poetic,
and it's for me. I think what this healing time looks like is not being at the edges of everything, but really finding like softness and space in the middle, and the day-to-day little things like a mattress or tying my shoes. Like, I think we need care. Sometimes we want these big gestures because we don't get any little gestures. Mm-hmm. And the little gestures, make you feel loved on an ongoing basis. People knowing.
I think that goes with
The thing, yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, I actually think it goes with Pastime Paradise.
Okay, good. I mean, now in terms of soul, and like, you know, that's what I was thinking. But
I mean, few people can go with Stevie in terms of soul. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I mean, that's a hard match, no matter what. Second verse: proclamations of race relations, consolation, integration, verification of revelations, acclamation, world salvation, vibrations, stimulation, confirmation to the peace of the world. And it ends saying, living for the future paradise, shame to anyone's lives living in the past time paradise. So I think that goes together. I think that fits.
Yeah, I think it fits too.
I could put a couple of songs around it.
Yes. We'll build it out.
I can build it out. Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this episode. Okay, so follow us on Instagram at Dim Black Mamas Podcast. And if you don't want to miss a minute of the magic, sign up for our newsletter, The Mothership, which includes reflections on the conversations we've been having and hearing. And we also share a collection plate cause where we'll spotlight causes and initiatives that resonate with our community.
And don't forget to check out our website, www.dimblackmamas.com. Dim Black Mamas is a conversation, so our inbox is always open. Send us your thoughts about the show, show us some love, and ask us some questions at magic@dimblackmamas.com.
And please take advantage of that when it comes to this episode. We did a lot of thoughts and explorations, and we want to hear, like, what are you exploring? What are you curious about? What are you wondering about? And how are you holding this moment in terms of boundaries? Be sure to listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. Don't just be looking at us. Subscribe. We're almost at 200 subscribers. So proud. So in closing, maintain,
expect
abundance.